Earth's ecosystems are thriving and prospering, and humanity is benefiting from modest warming and more CO2. I call it the greatest untold story of the 21st century, that of a thriving Earth and an improvement of the human condition because of warming and more CO2. It's completely opposite of what you and your viewers are being told.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, we had this person on about a year ago. He wound up having the #1 bestseller on Amazon in environmental policy. I'd like to think we helped play a role in it. He's got a new book out. The book is A Very Convenient Warming, How Modest Warming and More CO2 Are Benefiting Humanity. I know, say it ain't so. Please, Al Gore is rolling in his live grave right now. Last book was Inconvenient Facts, the science that Al Gore doesn't want you to know. And his name is Gregory Wrightstone. Gregory, it's great to have you back on the show. And so CO2 is good for us. Plants would all die without it. And hey, if it's a few degrees warmer in North Dakota during the winter, who cares, right?
Exactly. Thanks for having me back on. The last time I was on your show, Kerry, we talked about how there is no climate crisis. And I provided the science, the facts, and the data that disputed that. And we've taken it a step farther, both me personally, my new book, and the CO2 Coalition. And we find that by almost every metric we look at, Earth's ecosystems are thriving and prospering, and humanity is benefiting from modest warming and more CO2. I call it the greatest untold story of the 21st century, that of a thriving Earth and an improvement of the human condition because of warming and more CO2. It's completely opposite of what you and your viewers are being told.
Hey.
And this won't be the last time you hear me say it's completely opposite of what you're being told.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't we having a CO2 shortage? It's causing soft drinks and beverages, shortages in them as well. We got a shortage of CO2, and yet they're telling us we have too much of it. I mean, I guess we need to take more of it out of the air so we can carbonate our beverages, right?
No. We actually have a CO2 shortage in the atmosphere as well. We're at near historically low levels of carbon dioxide. You're being told that, CO2 is at record levels. It's never been this high, and we have to reduce it. Well, just the opposite is true. Again, we have nearly historically low levels of carbon dioxide. The average, now bear in mind, we're a little over 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide right now, 420. And over Earth's history, though, CO2 levels have been over 2,600 parts per million, 6.5 times what they are today. So the plants that we rely on, our crop, they all evolved at a much higher CO2 level than what we are today, and they thrive on this. So our plants, our vegetation, our crops are all at suboptimal levels of CO2. You probably remember back to, it was probably 4th grade or 5th grade, you were learning about photosynthesis, and your teacher might have had, you had a little styrofoam cup, and you put some soil and a bean in there, and you watched the bean sprout, and you learned about photosynthesis. And you learned at that time that photosynthesis and plants require 3 things, mainly water, sunlight, and CO2, and the more CO2, the better.
Right.
So what we're doing by increasing this CO2 is driving what's called the CO2 fertilization effect. And the biggest, we can go through that, a lot of the climate crises they're telling you about, these natural disasters that are being fueled by global warming, just turns out. We see that these things like fires, floods, droughts, many of these are in decline, not increasing. And we see that the huge benefits that we're accruing is mainly in vegetation. And of course, vegetation would include agricultural productivity. But we see that according to NASA, this isn't Gregory Wrightstone saying this is NASA, NOAA, government UN, that we see a greening, what they call greening of the earth. And greening would be vegetation's increasing. And we see from the near polar regions to the equator, this is an explosion of plant growth and vegetation. And we see the same thing, thankfully, with our agricultural productivity. In my new book, I show a chart. I take the 8 top crops in the world in terms of tonnage produced, and we look at those over the last 40 years and find that these crops are breaking records in productivity and output year after year after year after year. And that crop productivity increase are due mainly to 3 things. Number one's probably increasing CO2. Another one is this warming temperature. We know that we're in a warming trend, but that warming trend started more than 300 years ago. And the warming trend, what does that mean for crops? That means the growing seasons are lengthening. In the continental United States, we have increased the growing season by over 2 weeks since 1900. That's a good thing. That's a really, really good thing. And so what this warming means that filling frosts stop earlier in the spring and arrive later in the fall. You can get more plantings in. And if you have an apple orchard, what do you fear the worst or the most? If you'll fear a late spring killing frost.
Same with fruit, all fruit, the citrus fruit. 36-degree weather in Florida. So, but is the world really getting warmer here, or are we just imagining this all?
No, it is warming, but it's been warming in fits and starts. We haven't had much warming at all, really, since 2016. We had a spike in 1998 during an El Nino event, and then it was flat from 1998 to about 2016. We went through about 18 years where temperature really, it declined a little bit over that time. And then in 2016, there was another big El Nino event that drove a spike in temperatures. But if we look at it over the last several, you need to put this into the long-term perspective of several hundred years. And yes, we are warmer today than we were 300 years ago. And that's a good thing. Just for example, let's just take a look.
300 years ago, we had no industry. Even 150 years ago, we weren't burning fossil fuels the way we are today, right?
Yeah, and that's a shame. It's a good thing we are, again, because we're providing prosperity for people around the world. And the side benefit is an increase in carbon dioxide. It's fueling plant growth. But I'll just give you an example of why we know it was cold. I'm talking to you from Arlington, Virginia right now, and 18 miles to my south is Mount Vernon, George Washington's home. He lived there with Martha. Martha loved ice in her summertime drinks. And so every winter he'd have his slaves and indentured servants go down to the Potomac River, and they cut the thick ice into slabs and bring it up to his ice house. Well, you can't do that today. The Potomac rarely freezes over, much less have thick ice to cut into slabs. So we know just historical documentation like that tell us that it was much, much colder at that time.
Hey, well, it's a shame that the hell of D.C. isn't freezing over anymore, because we'd all benefit from that for sure. But the world, follow the science. The science says it's getting warmer and we're causing it, and this is bad. So you're saying don't follow the science, or follow science, right?
What we find is what they're calling the science isn't quite so. And that, is it warming? Yes. Are we adding CO2 to the atmosphere? Yes. Does CO2 have a warming effect on the atmosphere? Yes. It's just not very much, and it's overwhelmed by the natural forces that have been driving temperature since the dawn of time. So no, the CO2 coalition that I lead is in scientific organizations. We've got now some 160, some of the top scientists in the world. We just added Dr. John Clauser to our board of directors. He's the 2022 Nobel laureate in physics. It's hard to call him a science denier. So they try. And actually, he's proud of it. He says, call me a denier. I don't care. But he provides the facts, the science, and the data, no matter where it leads. And where it leads is no climate crisis.
All right. Well, I guess you're going to make a believer out of me yet. I drive a Tesla, but not because I'm saving the planet. I drive a Tesla because I like driving a Tesla.
Yeah, they sure are fun, aren't they?
Does that
Get up and go.
person here, Gregory? Does that make me a bad person because I'm not trying
Not
to
at
save
all.
the earth by driving a Tesla? I just like driving it.
Yeah, no, they're fun. They're fun to drive. But if the reason you're buying it, many of these people, I think the Tesla market, it should be about saturated now, because individuals that have enough money to buy a Tesla, and many of those are doing it for the wrong reason. They think they're saving the planet. You apparently are not one of those, and so God bless you. But what we're seeing here, this drive for EVs has been incredibly destructive to the automobile industry. It's not quite destructive yet, but if Ford lost $4.7 billion last year in their electrical vehicle business, and that worked out to $65,000 lost for every car they sold.
And that's in addition to $7,500 tax subsidy. Hey, my father always said, anytime you get into a new business, you're going to pay for lessons. And that's what Ford and the rest of the legacy automakers are doing. So Trump has said if he gets into office, he's going to put 100% tariff on all Chinese vehicles coming into the United States. This has the Chinese freaking out. Look, I think eventually EVs will win out because they're better in many respects. They're better from the standpoint of less moving parts, more efficiency, although the electrical grid is really inefficient, something that no environmentalist will ever talk about, so-called environmentalist, because it undermines their view. But, out of every kilowatt that goes through the wires, anywhere from 5 to 15% of it is lost in what's called transmission loss. So, but eventually the EVs will win out because they're better, less service, more efficient from the standpoint of if you can generate the power cheaply and efficiently, then the car runs cheaper and more efficient. And software, it's really not so much the car, but the software. And with electric, you get way more control over a vehicle using software than you do with an internal combustion engine. But that has nothing to do with the purported environmental benefits of an EV, right?
Well, those purported, I'm going to disagree strongly with you. I don't think the EVs are going to make it, because we like the ease of firing up, pulling into a gas station, taking 3 minutes to fill your car, not 45 minutes. Plus, the EVs are much, much heavier. There's much more wear and tear. The tires, because EV weight is about 30% higher than because of the lithium-ion batteries are so much heavier. And they have a tendency, not often, but it's hard to dispute. These things have lithium is an unstable metal that is flammable. And we've seen those fires of these EV vehicles, and they're hard to put out.
Yeah, well,
and I think, and then you look at the environmental degradation from cobalt, lithium mining, all the rare earth minerals. They have to be mined on most of them outside of the United States with very little environmental oversight, and it's just they're using slave labor in China, and they're using child labor in the Congo to mine cobalt. There's a lot, not just. It's not, you just don't plug the electric, your cord in. That electric's got to come from somewhere. Right now, that's coal and natural gas.
I don't put those kids to work here. Come on, Gregory, you got to put them to work. An idle mind is a devil's playground. You know that? No, but going back to what you're saying, Tesla has broken the code. All right. Yes, they're more expensive to fix if you damage them, no question about it. But that's for right now, where there's just not adequate scale for companies to produce the parts on the gray market. Whether Tesla's letting them or not, I don't know. In terms of cobalt and the minerals and all that, we're about to have a quantum leap in battery technology that we have not seen anything like since Edison invented the alkaline battery. So that's going to make a big difference. You will be getting 500 to 1,000 miles off a charge. Wireless charging is going to become prevalent. In fact, the new Tesla Cybertruck has got the jacks there once it's developed. And, it's just, we're going to go to sodium batteries. There's going to be so many battery types. The main battery innovations I saw in my life were first, alkaline batteries weren't really consumer items till later. Then nickel metal hydride, they used to basically power notebooks and electronics, and then lithium ion. We're going way, way beyond that. And the other thing is, they're not practical for people who live in apartments in urban areas. But if you live in a house, you charge the car there. I don't remember the last time I've been to a gas station other than to buy a soda or, a charging station. I went once in the past 3 months to a public charging station because I forgot to charge my car at home, and it took a whopping 15 minutes to get enough charge.
Have you taken any lengthy trips in your electric vehicle?
I just don't normally take big.
There you go.
Those are rare.
Might be unusual. You're unusual then. Many people like to take a longer trip occasionally in their vehicle, and that becomes a nightmare from just about the charging stations are just not there.
Not for Teslas.
It doesn't.
Not for Teslas. Tesla has the infrastructure,
No, you don't live in Wyoming, North Dakota, or something.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, that's.
But they're
just ain't. It's just not going to happen.
They're putting them at a rapid rate. I've even seen that the gym I'm at, they use Charge America or somebody else, but they buy the units from the one company other than Tesla that are reliable, and I never see one of them break. But look, I'm not advocating these. I'm just saying it's my belief that the market is going to deliver these because people are going to want them.
Yes, they will.
They're better. I mean, look, I got full.
What you're talking about is wishful thinking that something there may be a breakthrough, and maybe there will. But maybe there won't.
Breakthroughs are there. They're not commercially viable yet, but that's just scalability. But I will tell you this: like the FSD in my Tesla, which you really can't have in an ICE car. A lot of reasons, because you don't have the instant response to the computer in an ICE car, is downright amazing. There's no other car in the market. But hey, I'm not here to push Tesla. It's been my personal experience. I think they've reached critical mass, probably not going to fail. The attempts to mimic them and imitate them have failed. And the fact is, their sales are still going up, while the legacy makers' EV sales are at best static, maybe going up a little bit. But look, like I said, we agree on climate here. I just like the car better than any other car I've ever had before. And I've had 60 ICE cars in the past 45 years. But, let's get back to the important thing here is Tesla is not going to save the climate. BYD is not going to save the world. And according to your science, Gregory, the world doesn't need to be saved by them anyway.
Yeah, that's correct. We've got what we're doing is actually adding a beneficial molecule to the atmosphere by using fossil fuels. And for you to drive that Tesla, what you require is electricity. And the best source of electricity, I use 3 words to describe what that should be. It should be abundant, affordable, and reliable.
Sounds like coal to me.
Sounds like coal, natural gas, nuclear.
Nat gas and nuclear is by far the best.
It's in the United States. It's significantly more expensive, but that's for the main reason it's regulatory issues on that. And even if we just today said, okay, let's go all nuclear, you're looking at decades, 40 years maybe. We've built enough of them.
Don't even think about it. It's a impossibility. A good friend of mine has been working on that modular nuclear reactor. It sounds like you just put the thing together, you plug it in, and you get cheap, abundant electricity. Nothing could be further from the truth. You still got to go through the regulatory hurdles. It's still a total out and out mess. Hey,
and if we talk about fusion, we have a number of nuclear physicists on the CO2 coalition. They, according to them, in the physics community, the standing joke has been that fusion's always 40 years in the future. Dating back to the 60s.
Oh, 40 years would be great.
Yeah, but we'll get there. But the point they try to make is there's nothing on the horizon that makes this feasible.
No. Fusion is a great concept, and maybe we will get there. But we've both been hearing about the benefits of fusion. Fission is the way to go. Was it the guy from the Bowery Boys? He said nuclear fission. He said, I've been fishing a lot, but I never went fishing for nuclear. So in any event, but no, I totally agree with you. The benefits here to energy and the world by these EVs is illusory at best and fraudulent. Perhaps really it's fraudulent when you get down to it, right?
Yes. You're being lied to on a daily basis about.
Who would do that? Imagine that. Lied to? Who would lie to us like that, Gregory? Would they ever lie to us?
No. Well, there's
Hey, appreciate you coming on. Tell us your website, please.
CO2coalition.org, CO2coalition.org. And we also have an education initiative for students at CO2learningcenter.com, CO2learningcenter.com. We're catering to the homeschool movement. We'll provide books, comic books, videos, and importantly, lesson plans tailored to each.
All right. Excellent. Hey, we appreciate you coming on. Links to your books and your website in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Please go there, click through. While you're there, sign up for a free newsletter. Got one coming out shortly. And Gregory, keep up the great work. The books are great. I read the last one, and I'm looking forward to reading this one. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.